Welcome to Executive Leaders Radio, your spot in the corner office, the radio show where executives share their secrets to success. Executive Leaders Radio.
You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio, broadcast from Radio America. This is your host, Herb Cohen, with my co-host, Elijah Millard, 321 Marketing, and Katie Brewer. We have a great lineup of guests for you on our show today, including Vernon Green, CEO of GCubed, Alex Wang, partner of Markesman Group, Alayna Buckner, founder and CEO of Elevate, and Tushar Garg, CEO of Blueprint Consulting Services Group. Let's get to know our first guest, Vernon Green, CEO of GCubed. Vernon, what is GCubed? What are you guys doing?
GCubed is a IT and cybersecurity GovCon company.
Mm-hmm. But tell us a little bit more about what you do.
We provide services to the government, identifying any IT solutions that we can provide to help our government do their job better.
Mm-hmm. How'd you get a job with this company?
I founded the company.
You founded the company. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Poughkeepsie, New York.
How many brothers and sisters, and where were you in the pecking order?
I have 2 brothers and 1 sister, of which I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest. And tell us a little bit of what was going on with you 8 to 14 years old.
8 to 14, I was kicked out of school, taking care of my siblings, and doing the best I could to make some money.
You were kicked out of school?
Yes, sir.
Why were you kicked out of school?
I was kicked out of school for fighting.
Uh-huh. What was going on with mom and dad at that point in time?
My father was in jail. My mom was a single parent working 2 jobs, and I was taking care of the kids.
Your mom was a single mom. Your dad was in jail, and you got kicked out of school. But typically you think somebody is getting kicked out of school is because they're a bad kid or something. It doesn't make sense to me that you got kicked out of school, but yet you were taking care of your siblings. What's that all about?
I wasn't a bad kid. I was a very quiet kid, but there was some information that was shared about me and my family situation publicly in a school environment, about my father being in jail, about my sister being molested, and about my home situation. And I fought the guy who was throwing it in my face, trying to incite me to a fight.
Uh-huh. Okay. Elijah?
Now, you talk about fighting and protection. How did that shape your career path?
Coming from where I came from in Poughkeepsie, New York, there weren't many options. I decided to go into the military. I went into the Army, served 20 years, 5 months, and 18 days.
All right. Tell me a little bit more about the military. What was your role there?
I retired out of the military as a chief warrant officer. I was an expert in my field, which was communications and cybersecurity. But the military provided me an opportunity to have a career, to provide for my family, get leadership and structure in my life.
Out of all the branches, why the Army?
At the time, the Army would take me. The services ebb and flow on who and what they'll take. I did not have the greatest grades in school. It's not that I wasn't smart. I just wasn't in school.
Mm-hmm. Katie?
How young were you when you started earning money?
My first real job was at age 14. I had 3 jobs as soon as I got my working papers. I wasn't in school, so it gave me a lot of time to work jobs and make money.
Why 3 jobs?
There were just so many hours in the day, and 3 filled up my day. So it was to make as much money as I could so that I could get out of the situations that I was in.
What were the 3 jobs?
I worked at Hudson Valley Magazine, where I shipped out boxes of magazines. I was a dishwasher, and I delivered papers.
In your role as dishwasher, what did you do differently than the other people who were working in the dish room?
I worked hard and made sure that my job was done to the best of my ability, but I didn't get focused on just doing dishes. I just kept going. I just kept working.
What do you mean by that?
No matter what I do to the best of my ability, but I never let that be the ceiling or the cap. I'm always trying to improve and always trying to move forward, consistent improvement.
And how does that show up in your current business?
Within GCubed, we create a culture where people are committed to the mission over self. We create a culture where people believe in what we do, and they work really hard to see the vision accomplished.
You mentioned that one of the things is in your life, things lead to stuff. So when you were a kid and you were doing magazines and dishwashing and newspapers, did that lead to any other opportunities?
There were opportunities, but none of them really got me out of Poughkeepsie. I was asked to be a manager of some of the stores that I worked at, but they didn't achieve what I was trying to do, and that was to get away from where I was in Poughkeepsie.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned you grew up with a lot of poor examples. What was that all about?
I truly believe that mentorship is very valuable, but I would say that you're always teaching. You're either teaching what to do or what not to do. I had a lot of examples of what not to do.
Mm-hmm. So I understand that you have a partner in this business. What's her name?
Miss Wendy Maurer.
And what does Wendy do different than you, or why would you bother having a partner, or how's she compliment you, or what's that all about?
When I met Miss Maurer, there was a sense of organization and operational knowledge that I immediately asked her to come help me within the company. I jokingly say that I am the relationship builder and she is the compliance and operations, and together we are a great team.
Mm-hmm. Wendy, how long have you guys been working together?
We've been working together almost 3 years.
Uh-huh. So how do you guys balance each other out?
Well, he says relationships and compliance. I like to call it art and science.
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
Well, in any business, there's the art. There's the going out and the making money and hustling, and then there's the science of ensuring that you perform. And without both, you truly can't grow to new heights.
Didn't you mention there was some similar backgrounds you guys shared or something like that? It's tough to believe.
We both have pretty interesting childhoods. My mother died when I was 13. I've been on my own ever since. Put myself through college, and so we appreciate that about one another. Survival, striving to succeed, looking to be better than where we grew up.
Well, looking to be better. Tell me about how that has anything to do with growing a business. What are you guys talking about there? I'm not sure I understand.
It has everything to do with growing a business. If you're not constantly looking to be better, performing better, providing better services for your customers, ensuring that your employees have better opportunities with your company, you're gonna stagnate. You're gonna die after a while.
So you're saying this is stuff which is you guys personally, and it just happens to come through into the business. This is not something that's out there. It's really who you guys are.
We cultivate an environment where people feel empowered to step beyond themselves, to grow, to not be scared to try.
Where's that? Why is that so important to you? Where's that coming from in you? Is that from your childhood? You're trying to heal it?
I believe that I never thought that I was going to start a business. I never even considered it until the day that I did it.
You're trying to heal the community you came from, aren't you?
Absolutely.
What do you mean?
I feel like there was a lot of lack in my life, so I tried to fill those gaps, be the person that I wish I had when I was young.
If I could go a little further on that, one of the areas where Vernon and I have disagreements is that he has a company to feed his nonprofit habit. So he goes back into the community. He provides mentorship programs. We have GCubed Community Services, or G3CS. And through that, I believe that he is healing himself by ensuring that others don't experience what he experienced.
He has a business to feed. What was that line again?
He has a company to feed his nonprofit habit.
Vernon, you mentioned your dad was incarcerated. Did you ever have a chance to get back together with him?
I did. For years, I did not speak to him, and things didn't go well. But honestly, I had a conversation with him on his deathbed, and that's where the forgiveness and the next phase came.
What are you talking about?
I shared with him how I felt that he was a detriment and that he wasn't there, and so forth and so on. And I asked him he asked me for forgiveness, and in such, I was able to let go of a lot of anger.
What's that have to do with building a business?
To be honest, where some people may say that you succeed out of love and support, I feel like I succeeded in spite of the lack of those things. So it was almost like it drove me. So being able to bury that anger helped me to release.
And as Wendy was telling us, so you're in business to feed your nonprofit, build the community, heal the world kind of stuff?
I believe that we all have a responsibility to give back. Whether we choose to do it is everyone's individual right, but it is at the forefront of a lot of the decisions we make in business.
What's the website address for GCubed?
GCubedInc.com.
We've been speaking with Vernon Green, CEO of GCubed, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com to learn more about our executive leaders. We'll be back in a moment, right after this break. Want help building your business with help from this show's CEOs? Our CEOs can help you uncover more opportunities, grow your sales, connect you, help you raise money, all the big issues, because our CEOs have been there and done that. They've succeeded in creating millions of jobs and earning millions of dollars, and some are available to advise you. Now, email mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. That's mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. The same CEOs you've heard on the show for 10 years may be willing to help you build your business, uncover new opportunities, grow your sales, connect you, help you raise money, all the big issues, because our CEOs have been there and done that, succeeding in creating millions of jobs and earning millions of dollars. And some are available to advise you. Now, email mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. That's mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Alex Wang, who's a partner at the Markesman Group. Alex, what is the Markesman Group? What are you guys doing?
Markesman Group provides services to Defense Department and federal government partners in cyber intelligence and software engineering.
Sounds pretty complex. How large or how small is this organization?
About 75 people.
And how'd you get a job with it?
Well, I co-founded it.
You co-founded it. And
where
you from originally?
Central New Jersey.
How many brothers and sisters?
I have 2 older sisters.
And what was going on with you 8 to 14 years old?
So about 9 years old, and I'll never forget it, I had come out of the minivan from a basketball game when I was a kid, and that was when my sister broke it to me that my mother had cancer. So probably a year afterwards, or less than a year afterwards, she had passed away. So the fallout from that was where I had to figure out what my future looked like, who was going to take care of me, what I was going to do in life. Did I want to become, someone versus not becoming somebody? So it's one of those time periods when I was figuring out what I was going to do, who I was going to be.
You were taking things pretty seriously for a 9, 10, 11-year-old.
When you're stuck in your own room and you have nothing to think about except about what is going on, that's the thing that kind of hits you. Do I become somebody or kind of just be like the rest and fall to the side over the next 10 years? So you
were involved with some video gaming, weren't you? What was that all about?
Of course, when you're kind of figuring this all out, it's not hard to plug in the computer, turn it on, and throw in a game of StarCraft. For anyone who's ever played that game, it's a huge strategy game, and you learn pretty quickly how to play one-on-one, and then eventually play with other people. And so that was the party of my youth, where I played with a ton of friends. We became very good together. We'd all sign at the same time, and we'd play 5-10 games, win all of them.
Mm-hmm. Elijah?
So in the green room, you mentioned you played tennis, correct?
Yep.
So when people think of tennis, they usually think of a very solo sport. But you had mentioned you like to play with, it was doubles, correct?
Yeah, doubles.
Why doubles as opposed to solo?
So in doubles, you can cover more ground of the court, and really what it is the mentality you can have with someone else, where you can have a partnership with somebody. You can really figure out how to work the court and basically try to dominate it. And, the great thing about it is in tennis, when you play doubles, someone's in the front, someone's in the back. So the person in the front is kind of your shortstop. The person in the back is making sure he's seeing what's coming at you. Honestly, I think it's a great way to look at how to succeed is finding somebody who can complement you.
So, having heard that, you would say you rely heavily on a support system.
That's right.
How has that support system mentality kind of shaped your future?
That's a great question. Having a support system is incredibly important when you don't have the raw skill sets, when you're looking for someone you want to trust to help you, and likewise when you want to do it for them as well. It's kind of part of life where you can have a fruitful relationship with friends, family, anybody.
Mm-hmm. Katie?
You said you co-founded your business. Who is your partner?
My partner's name is Dan Marks. We were friends actually probably around 12, 13 years old.
How did you choose him as your partner?
It was really funny. I received a call on the way back. I worked at a hospital for a while, and on my way back, that's when he was telling me about his idea. And that's when I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to stick this through with you as your friend. I'm going to see, how far you want to take this. When he showed me he was willing to go all the way, and I trusted that he said what he was going to do, I dove right in, went all in, and I said, you know what, I'm going to go with him the whole 9 yards and see where this takes us.
When you were a kid, how young were you when you started making money?
So around 16 years old.
Doing what?
Being a caterer or bartender.
How'd you get the job?
A good friend of mine, he was a chef. He was just becoming a chef. He asked me to take the job, and I trusted him to take it.
It sounds to me like the same way you got led into working with that caterer is the same way you got involved with this business. Somebody you trusted led you into it.
Yeah, that's right. Trust is a big thing in my life.
Oh, boy. Friends are really a big thing. People you can trust are really a big thing with you, aren't they?
Yeah, so with trust, just like anything you want to accomplish, you need to trust everyone you work with. It's kind of the foundation of any relationship or any success you want to build up from. Any business owner, any entrepreneur can tell you that.
So intimacy is your middle name, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a great word to categorize it.
That made it that much more difficult when Mom passed, didn't it?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
You kind of step away, or you kind of disassociate with the world when Mom passed.
Especially when somebody's as connected as you are.
Yeah. I think that coming out of it, I learned that you have to be the opposite. You really have to be with people, be a part of the community, build the community. Also, really get to know the people that are, the living force behind what you do.
The what?
The living force behind what you do.
What's that all about? What are you talking about?
Well, I think of startups, early stage growth, or any company as a living organism. They can evolve, they can adapt, they can acquire. They can do what they want to do, and they inherit everyone's genetics or anything that it does. So when I say
realizing that you're influencing the organization, how do you want to influence the organization?
I want to turn Markesman Group into a place where people come to start, grow, and lead their careers and lives with us. The whole goal is to help people who are high performers create what they want to create, build the world into a better place.
How's that fixing your childhood?
I guess from someone who's so young, the world looks a little broken early on.
Yeah, you were alone in your room.
Yeah.
But you're not doing that nowadays. You're inviting all your friends in.
That's right. Working with people I trust.
Mm-hmm. Working with people you trust. Elijah?
So you had mentioned you have nieces and nephews, correct?
That's right.
So earlier you said you wanted to return the favor. Why is that?
Yeah, what's that returning the favor all about?
Yeah, so I made a promise to myself that when the time came and I'd been successful, I would set aside funds for my nieces and nephews.
How young were you when you made this promise to yourself?
Probably when I was 22. So a little bit older, but...
What was the promise?
promised to return the favor to my sisters.
What are you talking about?
You know, I guess when someone invests into you and spends their time to bring you up, you really feel a kind of almost a slight burden, or maybe just a feeling bad about, especially in my sister's case, they were just a couple years older than me. And so for them, it was really difficult for them to show me something and teach me something, considering they're just only a couple years older than me.
What did they show you? What did they teach you? What are you talking about?
My oldest sister showed me how to cook a little bit. She had cooked meals for me. My middle sister, which was the youngest altogether, but she showed me how to talk to people and go to a dance and dress, put on some nice clothes. So your two older sisters parented you. Yeah.
And you feel a responsibility about that.
I do feel responsible about that.
And what's that look like nowadays?
You know, I joke about it, but in some cases I try to be the older brother to them. So when I come in and see them, and I just visited them recently, I wanted to help them, and so I kind of think about how their lives are going, making sure everything's going well at home, how I could just be of something to them. So I always try to find a way to add to their lives.
How?
Well, so my middle sister, who's closer, so I just saw her, was just out of her brand new house, and we were already talking about how I could work with her to probably own more homes, and for her to take on that as a project to build her own wealth, and to also have something fun to do. And she loves that kind of thing. My oldest sister, Flora, I always check in with her, pretty much trying to see what I could do for her and her husband. Last time I visited them, it was all about how to shift his career and help to grow into the next role for him.
What's the website address for the Markesman Group?
Markesman.com.
We've been speaking with Alex Wang, partner at Markesman Group here on Executive Leaders Radio. We'll be back in a moment right after this break. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Alayna Buckner, who's the founder and CEO of Elevate. Alayna, what is Elevate? What are you guys doing?
Elevate provides comprehensive grant writing services to nonprofit organizations around the country, and we work with 90 nonprofits.
How large or how small is the team?
We have 55 full-time staff.
Whoa, 55 full-time staff. Where are you from originally?
I'm originally from a small town in Virginia.
Uh-huh. And how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have one identical twin sister.
Oh, okay. What makes identical twins special, or how'd that affect you?
Well, I think it's wonderful to grow up with someone who's always with you, by your side, that you can always talk to. And I think it made me and my sister both more confident and willing to take risks, just to know that at the end of the day, there'd always be someone in our corner sort of supporting us.
Uh-huh. How young were you when you started making money?
Well, my sister and I actually started our first business together when we were maybe 8, 9, 10. We would go in the backyard and pick 4-leaf clovers. My sister was very good at finding them in the yard, and we would cut them and tape them to pieces of construction paper, and then we would go out on the country roads in Virginia, stop the cars and ask them, if they wanted a 4-leaf clover for good luck, and we'd sell them for $1 each.
And if they didn't buy one, they felt like we were going to get bad luck, so everybody bought one. Okay, whose idea was this?
I think it was both of ours, but I'm not sure my sister would have done it if I hadn't sort of pushed us to that.
So you're the initiator.
Yes.
And so you co-opted your sister into doing this, into finding 4-leaf clovers, and the two of you stuck them on cards and you would sell them. Okay, yeah. That's a clever idea. Elijah?
So you said you were an initiator. As far as sports go, what sports were your favorite and what did you play?
Well, we played a lot of different sports growing up, but my favorite was probably softball. My sister and I were both pitchers, and I liked that because I knew that I could shape the outcome of the game if I did well, and so I did sort of...
Wait. So you how old were you when you were pitching? How young were you?
We started with... around 8, I think.
So you're 8 or 9 years old, and you're realizing that you want to shape the outcome of the game. What's that have to do with building a business?
Well, I definitely think as CEO, you get to set the vision and...
but you knew this when you were 8 years old, huh? Okay.
Definitely.
Katie?
What did your father do for a living?
My father worked in construction, and... he hung wallpaper for, a decade, and then he did maintenance.
And what did you learn from your father that you bring to your business?
Well, my father always believed if it was worth doing, it was worth doing well, no matter what it was that you were doing. And so I definitely learned that from him, and I think I take it into Elevate. We always take pride in our work.
What are you talking about?
With Elevate, we really are committed to serving our clients and their nonprofits, and so I think that it's this attention to detail and just really being invested in what you're doing. It matters. It doesn't matter if it's, if you're the CEO or if you're...
Hey, Alayna, when you were, so you were 10 years old, you went to work with your dad who was hanging wallpaper.
Yes, in the summer, occasionally we would help him, yeah.
And didn't that stink because your friends are outside playing and you got to go help your dad?
Well, I didn't think so. I always loved hanging out with my dad and learning from him, and I've just always liked work.
So you felt, you thought work was fun.
Definitely. My sister and I loved going to...
All right. So I got a question for you. So what time do you start with your emails in the morning, and what time do you stop thinking about the business at night?
Well... I'm a night person, actually, so I am writing emails well into the evening. But building Elevate, it was just nonstop, like 20 hours a day sometimes.
So work is fun for you.
Yeah.
So that characteristic emerged when you were a kid working with Dad. You thought it was fun to go to work with him.
I thought it was fun to go to work with my dad. I thought it was fun to go to my mom's office. She had office supplies, which was even more exciting. She worked for a nonprofit organization for 30 years. So I think even from a young age, I knew I wanted to work with nonprofits.
And what do you bring from your mom into your current job?
Well, my mom was the educated academic person in the family. She had a master's degree. My dad didn't graduate from college, so my mom was really committed to our education and to learning. And Elevate, one of our core values is learning and continually improving and growing. And so I think I bring that to the company.
How does that show up in the company?
Oh, we have professional development funds for every staff member so that they can enrich their own learning, and we just are always talking about how, when we learn more, we're better able to help our clients.
Wait. You're a small firm. You're 55 people. You have a professional development fund. What are you talking about here?
Yeah, as part of our commitment to learning, we make sure every staff member has a $500 professional development fund that they can use so that they can learn, whatever is it helping them.
Mm-hmm.
Were you part of a club when you were growing up?
I was very active in lots of clubs. I've always been drawn to sort of social, civic organizations. I was in forensics and academic club, and I was in Key Club, which is a service organization.
What role did you have in the club?
I was I loved leadership, so I was the treasurer of Key Club growing up. I just always wanted to sort of know where we were spending our money, and and I do think that relates to Elevate, because how you spend your money is it. As a nonprofit, it's what you're able to accomplish and what you're able to do. So,
tell me more about that.
Well, how, especially for a nonprofit organization, what you put money behind shows shows your mission. It shows your values and what you're committed to. And I think I did have that sense even as a kid. We can talk all day, but where are we putting our resources? What are we actually doing with that?
Well, doesn't that lead exactly into your business, which is the grant writing?
Yeah, exactly. We fundraise for nonprofits. Our whole goal is to sort of raise money for them and to provide them support and strategy so that they know, we really believe that the stronger the nonprofit is, the more you're able to raise money. So they're definitely linked.
So the fact that in the Key Club you wanted to be the treasurer, where you wanted to know where the money went, and the fact that your mom was involved in a nonprofit, it sort of makes sense who you are. The fact that you were the pitcher because you wanted to make sure you could affect the outcome of the game. It sort of leads up to who you are. And it's fascinating that you're helping nonprofits raise money. And the organization's 55 people. That's a pretty substantial organization for you to start. How many years ago did you start this business?
I started 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm. So what's the end game? What's the how high is up?
Well, we definitely want to continue helping more organizations. There's so many that can benefit from our services. So, yeah, we want to continue to grow.
How can they benefit from your services? What are you talking about?
Well, we help nonprofits find grants, and so they know who to apply to, and then we help them build relationships with funders, and then we actually help them write proposals and submit them. And that was really important to me because I think that a lot of consultants especially are good at, telling organizations this is what you should do, but for me, again, I think there's that tendency. I actually wanted to do the work for people.
Let me ask you a question. When you guys were 10 years old and your sister was finding the 4-leaf clovers, who stood in the middle of the road and stopped the traffic?
I think we both did, but definitely I've always been unafraid to ask for what you want. And
what's that have to do with what you're doing with these nonprofits?
Well, I think, especially for nonprofits, we help them shape what is the vision, what is their mission, what do they want to accomplish, and then we are the translators.
You're helping stand in the middle of the road with them, aren't you?
Definitely, yes.
But you really believe in what you're doing. This is not, you're fully behind mind, body, and soul what you're doing. You're really enjoying this, and you're really focused on the mission, aren't you?
Yes, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And all of our staff are really committed to working in the nonprofit sector. I was always drawn to that.
Why?
I mean, I just always wanted to work for organizations that would make a difference. I know how much, how much need there is.
What kind of nonprofit did your mom work for?
She worked for Project Hope. It was a health nonprofit. Mm-hmm.
Were you aware of what that organization was doing when you were a kid? I
had a vague sense that they did international development, in other countries, I think. I understand it much better now, but I just knew that she had, chosen to dedicate her life to serving others, and I think it...
What's the website address for Elevate?
It's elevatedeffect.com.
Let me have that one more time.
It's Elevated Effect, and it's effect with an E.
Elevatedeffect.com. We've been speaking with Alayna Buckner, founder and CEO of Elevate, here on Executive Leaders Radio. Want to help building your business with help from this show's CEOs? Our CEOs can help you uncover more opportunities, grow your sales, connect you, help you raise money, all the big issues, because our CEOs have been there and done that. They've succeeded in creating millions of jobs and earning millions of dollars, and some are available to advise you. Now, email mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. That's mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. The same CEOs you've heard on the show for 10 years may be willing to help you build your business, uncover new opportunities, grow your sales, connect you, help you raise money, all the big issues, because our CEOs have been there and done that, succeeding in creating millions of jobs and earning millions of dollars. And some are available to advise you. Now, email mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. That's mentors@executiveleadersradio.com. We're back. You're listening to Executive Leaders Radio. This is your host, Herb Cohen. We'd like to introduce Tushar Garg, who's founder and CEO of Blueprint Consulting Services Group. Tushar, what is Blueprint Consulting Services Group? What are you guys doing?
Blueprint Consulting Services Group is a business and IT management services company in the GovCon space.
Mm-hmm. And how large or how small is the team?
We're about 75 full-time employees and 20 subcontractors.
And where are you from originally?
From Mumbai, India.
And how'd you get a job with this company?
I founded the company in 2011.
You founded the company, and you're originally from India. And how young were you when you came to the United States?
I was 13 years old to Florida.
Uh-huh. You're 13 years old and you came to Florida. How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I'm the only child.
You're the only child. You came to Florida when you were 13. I assume with your parents?
No, by myself, but with my parents' support.
Okay. Why did you come to the United States when you were 13?
I had the opportunity to pursue my goals of being a pro tennis player, and I was given a scholarship to Nick Bollettieri's in Florida. And
so mom and dad stayed in India and sent you here alone?
That's right.
When you were 13?
That's right.
Okay. What kind of vision did you have for yourself?
My goal was to actually play on the pro circuit. And
on what pro circuit?
On the pro tennis circuit.
And what happened?
At the age of 17, I ended up having a really bad left knee injury that made me choose to go more on the collegiate level.
Okay, so what happened between the time you were 13 and 17?
I was traveling around. I lived in Europe. Croatia was my base, and I traveled around playing on the pro circuit and helping some of the other bigger names warm up for their matches.
Who'd you go there with?
I traveled by myself and a coach at that time that was based out of Croatia.
So you're 13 to 17 years old. You're traveling around Europe with your coach.
That's right.
Talk about being independent. And how many brothers and sisters do you have?
By myself, only child.
So you really are an independent soul, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Uh-huh. Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood that. Elijah?
So you say you came here at 13. What kind of feelings did you have when you got here as an only child and being here just by yourself in a new country?
Absolutely. Number one, culture shock. Coming from a very different background to truly having to do everything on your own. And it was a learning experience, and it made me grow up and really mature quickly.
So in tennis, there's doubles and singles. What did you prefer?
I preferred singles.
Singles. Now, so you were an only child. You came here overseas by yourself, and you like to play singles tennis, correct?
That's right.
So how did that kind of shape the way that your future played out after that?
Absolutely. I came to college. I played Division I school at tennis for American University. I've always been the one that if I'm not number one, there's a lot more room to go. So I played number one singles and doubles for them. And I always wanted to be the one that could be held accountable and set the example for what we wanted to do and to be successful.
What's that? Wait. You always give me that last line again.
I always wanted to be the one that's held accountable. I felt like if I don't do it, and if I'm not the one in front, then I cannot hold someone else accountable as well.
Wait a minute. What's that have to do with building this organization known as Blueprint Consulting Services Group? Is there a connection there?
Yes, absolutely. Everyone in our company is dedicated to our clients, and they are also dedicated to knowing that they have to be the best at their craft, and they hold me accountable as much as I hold them accountable. So we as a company and as individuals within the company work independently to make sure we serve what we need to do.
Katie, is all yours.
You came over here at 13, but your parents were still in India, correct?
That's right.
And what did your dad do?
My dad was the executive director for a hospitality group, and my mom was a fashion designer.
And what did you learn from your dad as part of the time that you were growing up?
Absolutely. My dad was the one that taught me business savvy, relationships, and especially how to manage employee relationships.
Tell me a little more about that.
My dad was the lead of over 2,000 to 3,000 people, and he was the only one that I have ever seen walk into a union leader's office and walk out with an agreement within 1 hour.
What? Wait. Tell us more about this.
Absolutely. In India, union leaders are just like everywhere else, very stern, very strong. And because of the personal relationship that my dad had with him, he was able to walk in and negotiate within 1 hour a deal for 3,000 employees.
What's that have to do with what you're doing?
The same thing. A business is not always about just the money and about the contracts. It's about having those personal moments with your employees, with your clients, with your customers. It's a matter of trust. It's a matter of them knowing that you have their best interest at heart, and it's not just about the bottom line.
Katie, what else are you thinking?
And how about your mom? What did your mom do?
My mom was a fashion designer. She was an entrepreneur herself, and she was the most dedicated, confident, resilient person I've met to this point, because I lost my dad last year, and so she's been able to get back on her feet and be there. So that's a lot of what I learned from her.
And what do you bring into your business from your mom?
Compassion, confidence, and resilience.
Resilience. Tell me more about that.
I lost my dad last year because of mental health. He committed suicide, and so that was a shock. And so my mom had to really dust it off and get back on her own feet. I'm the only child, so there's no other support back there. And so if it isn't resilient, I don't know what that is then.
What was resilient? What do you mean resilient? How were you resilient?
As a business owner, you are faced with competition and challenges.
Regarding your dad and mom.
Regarding my dad and mom, the obligation of being the only child and the only son and being not there is hard. But in the face of hardship, we do the best we can, and you just got to keep driving. Is that
responsibility? Where's that responsibility coming from? Is that cultural, or is that something that mom did to you or dad did to you? Where's that coming from?
I think it's all of the above. There's a cultural aspect to it, but there's also the fact that my dad was always the main strength, and he was always the main provider for the family. And
sounds
so
like
that sense of
the apple
responsibility
doesn't fall far from the tree, does it?
That's what he imparted in me.
Anita, I understand that you guys are married, huh?
That's right.
How many years?
We just celebrated 12 years.
What am I missing? What are we missing in this interview with Tushar, your husband?
I think that at a young age he made a brave decision to come here and to pursue tennis, and that really was his dream. And when injury got in the way, I think he needed to have a second dream. When I met him, he was bouncing up a bit between different companies, and I really think he came into his own when he took another brave decision to go out on his own. Right before we had our first child, actually, he made the decision to start this company. And I think...
Wait. Right before you had your first child?
He actually told me at our baby shower.
Wait a second. Didn't that frighten you? He's a nutcase because here you're going to have a child. It's like most businesses fail.
Absolutely, it was scary, but this is part of who he is, and I knew that when I met him.
What's part of who he is?
He likes to take risks, and he likes to set himself apart.
Did you see this as a risk?
I saw it as a risk, but I also saw it as a risk that I can manage, and the reward on this would be a lot higher than ever thought of.
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
I am very confident in what I know I can provide to my clients. I'm very confident in what I can do, and I know I could translate that to being successful in this space.
So I understand you're married, and Anita's your wife. What has Anita taught you about building your business?
Anita's the other side of the coin. She has taught me how to understand perspectives, compassion, as well as she's taught me empathy. I never had that until I met her.
What's empathy have to do with building a business?
Not every employee is the same, and there are times where personal circumstances come in the way, and if you are only about the bottom line and you're only about serving, you miss that, and that's where the employee relationships come in place as well. You have to have a personal relationship to a certain degree so you can understand hardships and be a true leader.
Anita, how has Tushar surprised you?
I've never felt bored in our relationship. There's always been a lot of surprises as he's grown from a two-person company to where he is now. I think with the tragedy that we experienced last year and the way he has stepped up to take care of his mom and manage the household in India.
Well, he didn't tell us that. I was trying to get him to tell us. What do you mean he stepped up to manage his mom and stuff like that?
his father was always the one that took care of a lot of the responsibilities financially, and so now his mom has a learning curve, and he has really stepped in, made several trips back to India to make sure that she feels settled and that we can get her to be with us here.
Tushar, what's
possible.
the website address of Blueprint Consulting Services Group?
BlueprintCSG.com.
Let me have that one more time.
BlueprintCSG.com.
We've been speaking with Tushar Garg, founder and CEO of Blueprint Consulting Services Group here on Executive Leaders Radio. As well as we've had the opportunity of speaking with Vernon Green, CEO of GCubed, Alex Wang, partner of Markesman Group, Alayna Buckner, founder and CEO of Elevate, and again, most recently, Tushar Garg, founder and CEO of Blueprint Consulting Services Group. I'd like to thank my co-hosts, including Elijah Millard, who is 321 Web Marketing, and Katie Brewer for giving me a hand structuring the questions, hopefully providing our listening audience an educational and entertaining show. I'd like to thank our listening audience for listening. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a radio show. Don't forget to visit our website. It's executiveleadersradio.com. To learn more about our executive leaders, it's executiveleadersradio.com. To learn more about our executive leaders, we appreciate you joining us today, and do have a nice day. Bye-bye.